Welcome to our third 1036 special, Stories of Our Pandemic. I'm Portia Young. Since the first 3 deaths from COVID-19 were reported in Wisconsin, more than 600 Wisconsinites have died from the virus, and the impact on the economy is sending Wisconsinites to the unemployment lines. According to April state numbers, the unemployment rate in Wisconsin was 14%, the highest since the Great Depression, and more than 2.4 million unemployment claims were filed between March 15th and May 23rd. With all that, there are some signs of guarded optimism as businesses have begun to reopen. Today, we'll take a look at 2 of those businesses, a restaurant group and a group of bars that focus on recreation activities. We'll also revisit MATC Professors Pablo Muirhead and his wife, who tested positive for COVID-19 back in March and have recovered. And we'll look again at a group of self-employed individuals we featured on our April 20th special, who were victims of the economic shutdown. We begin with the Cubanitas Restaurant story. Marta and Marc Bianchini closed their restaurant March 17th and decided not to offer curbside service. Producer Raul Galvan spoke with the Bianchinis about their experience the past 2 months.
It should be the time for planning the Cubanitas Restaurant's annual Cuban Day celebration, but the streets are empty and the restaurants have been closed since March 16th.
The most important thing was the safety and health of our customers and staff.
Some restaurateurs made a decision to stay open and provide curbside or pickup. Why did you decide not to do that?
We just made the choice for 2 reasons. One, we weren't prepared to do it. And 2, if we tried to do it, what are we doing? We're just taking away business from another struggling restaurant. So let the restaurants that are set up for this, let them at least be able to service their customers and still make money. Basically, we need to chalk this year up not to all about profiting and this and that, but more about survival and what our industry is going to look like moving forward.
The Bianchini's 2 Cubanitas and Indulge Restaurant closed on March 16th, and the reopening dates are uncertain. Marc and Marta were forced to lay off 40 employees and to this point have suffered losses estimated to be in the 6-figure range.
Were you guys able to take advantage of any of the government assistance programs as a restaurant?
Not as of yet. We have filed applications. We have received for the part of the CARES Act that initial funding that will eventually turn into the 10-year note. But that's, again, was maxed out at $10,000.
There were a few employees that I think about a week 2, we reached out. I had my managers reach out to them and to see if they needed any food. And so there's a few that needed just some food. They couldn't leave. They had small babies at home. And so we went around, dropped off some food, some Amazon gift cards, just to get them over that hump.
Are you making preparations to begin opening? And how does that work out?
Yes, we at all the locations we are now getting ready for the opening. So we're going to do, before we reopen, we're going to implement a whole new training with our staff so they know the new protocols that we have to go through.
You guys also had an opening in the works out in Brookfield at the Four Corners.
Yes.
What's happened to that project?
It's that project is continuing. Hopefully it should only be about a 3-month process of construction and then opening.
So ladies in the back, you've been watching very quietly and seriously. One of you has an extra little story that was interesting regarding this pandemic. Can you talk about that?
I'm Christina. I was in Rome for my study abroad semester, and it was an amazing time. I was unfortunately there for only 50 days, but eventually was spreading and spreading. And when it hit Italy, I told my parents about it, and we became scared and frightened, but we were hopeful that it was going to become contained, and it just wasn't. So we were informed that our program would be ending in Italy. So I told my parents about that, and they said, come home.
You're seeing the second generation of Cubanita right here with Valentina. And I got to tell you, I know that Marta and I are beyond proud of how well she's handled herself through all this. Get ready for the name Valentina, because that's going to be the one taking over pretty soon. And hopefully mommy and daddy get to retire real quick if she's real good. So
Guys, are there going to be restaurants that don't make it out of this?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, yes.
Sorry.
Can you
about
give
that.
us an idea of like how many percentage-wise?
Well, the National Restaurant Association is saying, 33% perhaps? A third of the restaurants might go away. It's hard to tell. I think hopefully we get the help that we need.
The reality is, let's just assume that a third of restaurants don't make it. When things come back again, you'll see new restaurants open. So is there going to be short-term pain? And again, those are all with the variables that we talked about before. Sure, absolutely. How bad it is really all going to be dependent on the landlords and the banks.
Cubanitas reopened the Oak Creek location May 28th and are making plans to open the downtown location the weekend of July 4th. Bars and Recreation Inc. owns 4 bars that also feature art activities, axe throwing, mini golf, and shuffleboard. They too closed their establishments the week of March 16th. We spoke with the co-owner, Marla Poytinger, about their pandemic experience.
Let's do a little roll call.
The virtual Headspace Trivia was a creation of Bars and Recreation, who owns 4 brick-and-mortar social experience bars: the Splash Art Bar, 9 Below Miniature Golf, Axe MKE, and NorthSouth, a space that offers shuffleboard and axe throwing. The company was founded 8 years ago by Marla Poytinger and her husband David.
We try to bring people together, and the pandemic wants us to take people apart. And so it was a shock to the system is really like a huge understatement.
The bars closed on Monday, March 16th, and are discussing a June opening date.
What have you guys lost? Money-wise, income-wise, revenue-wise?
Oh man, it's a really big number, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
What does it do to a fledgling, a growing, and a business that has, big plans?
We've been growing, but I think we've been growing at a pace that is rational and safe and has allowed us to stock some money away for an emergency. And it hasn't been anywhere near enough, but I think it's been more than what most people have had access to. So we had cash, and we were able to keep people on the payroll because of that. I think we're going to be fine, and we're not giving up without a fight.
Bars and Recreation was one of the first companies in Milwaukee to get a Paycheck Protection Program loan from the federal government, working with the partners at the Old National Bank. Their loan allowed the bars to retain staff and provided time to reassess strategies to bring in some business online. To maintain some cash flow, staff developed a painting kit and hosted virtual painting parties. They also developed Headspace Trivia, both activities directed online by Bars and Recreation team leaders.
How does your business look once this thing begins to open?
I think we're going to kind of sit the first inning out and see how that goes, make sure that we really have all our ducks in a row and that all of our safety precautions are in place and that our team is safe and ready to open. And As soon as we feel confident that we're at that point, then we will turn it all back on again. We have one chance, I think, to get it right. We want to get it right, and when we open, we want to stay open.
And while all this takes place, you find out you're pregnant, right?
I found out I was pregnant in February. I announced on March, I want to say 10th, and we were shut down on the 16th. So it was such a roller coaster of exciting news, so much to look forward to, everything's going great, and then what do we do now?
What's your gut tell you? Will people return?
I think a lot of people will come back. I think the great majority of the community craves human interaction and social engagement and getting out of the house and being creative. And I think if we can get this back up and running soon, we will come out stronger because of the decisions that we made during this period. Entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. No matter what is going on in the rest of the world, it is a series of highs and lows, and you have to just be ready to ride that roller coaster.
Bars and Recreation had hoped to reopen the NorthSouth Club Friday, May 29th, but that same night, Milwaukee city officials decided to delay the reopening of bars and restaurants. In our first pandemic special back in April, we featured Pablo Muirhead, an MATC professor, and his family who tested positive for COVID-19 the second week of March. We caught up with Pablo and his wife Jackie, also an MATC professor, last week. Here's how their original story began.
I'm here today to tell you that I tested positive for COVID-19. And I'm feeling really, really good physically.
6 days earlier, Pablo had woken up with a fever, body aches, and a slight cough.
On Sunday, March 15th, that I got the phone call from the local health authorities telling me that I had tested positive, which, let me just pause for a second there. That just shocked me because it was the last thing I expected in light of how I was feeling. I thought that would not be the case. When I got the news that I tested positive, I would share that, the thought is does my body just start shutting down? What happens? Will I need a respirator? Does this? And of course, logic kicks in and you're like, all right, so it's still you stand at, it's very unlikely that you'll even have terrible symptoms, and it's even less likely that you would die.
When Pablo found out Sunday night, on Monday morning at 6:30 in the morning, I called my brother and I was sobbing because I'm like, I've been holding it together because I wanted to act brave in front of my kids, and I can't talk to my husband right now because he's locked behind a room. What do I do? What does this mean for us? And I was couldn't sleep, dealing with anxiety, only on 3 hours of sleep. It was terrible.
The question people have asked me, how did they get it? Does he know who he got it from?
Maybe I got it from the people that asked you. I mean, that's right, because we don't know.
Jackie, their 2 kids, and their Japanese exchange student were eventually tested after some of them experienced mild symptoms, and Jackie and daughter Gabrielle were found to be positive. The exchange student tested negative and eventually went back to Japan. Son Santiago, who had been in closer contact with Pablo and showed many of the same symptoms, tested negative, but for safety reasons was treated as a positive. We checked in with Pablo and Jackie the day after Memorial Day to see how they're doing.
All right, so it's been 2 months since we were diagnosed with COVID-19, and we've been well health-wise. Maintaining our social distancing and respecting the stay-at-home order.
I would say the same. Physically, we have been doing wonderfully. We were really, like I said last time, only sick probably 2 days each. And since then, we've been able to get out and enjoy the weather, which has helped a lot mentally. We've been sticking together as a family, biking, rollerblading, which has been really nice. I had 5 nights in a row of these stress dreams. It was a different location every night, but the same theme. I was in a place where I had been before, one day I was at the gym, another day I was on a bus to go to an airport to travel. I think I was at a school another day, and then all of a sudden I realized I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be socially distancing, and I couldn't get out of the situation. So obviously I realized that there's a little bit of anxiety that has seeped into the subconscious, and my brain is working it through.
We're still very cautious. We're spending a lot of time exercising, walking, biking, blading, being outside, but maintaining social distance. A lot of time, as a nucleus, the four of us, we've recently expanded our circle to include my parents who live about 5 blocks away, whom we had not been in physical contact with since the onset of COVID-19 for us as a family. So that's been nice to expand our circle a little bit. And now we're cautious and kind of tepid, moving forward.
Well, we were really close contact with the CDC when we first found out our news. And then after our 2 weeks are up, we really haven't seen them as much.
I've been part of this plasma donation study program. The thought is that the plasma collected from patients that have survived COVID-19 can help those that are struggling, battling COVID-19. So I've able to donate 4 times. I've donated twice so far. I'll be donating again in a week, and then a week later, and then I'll be done with my donations of plasma. This is going to have we're going to be in this for a while. And while we are starting to congregate maybe with our next door neighbors or with our parents and widening our circle, we can't go back to 2019 like that. Not until there's some significant work done with the vaccines.
We're happy to hear the Muirheads are in recovery. And like Pablo suggested, please take care of yourself because the virus has not gone away. On our last show, we introduced you to individuals who are self-employed and who hadn't worked since early March. We checked in on them again last week to see how they're doing.
Sitora Takanaev, Lisa and Duane Rodriguez, Deanna Calvillo, Tom Halladay, and Cynthia Herber are all self-employed, and early on in the stay-at-home shutdown, found themselves without work. Some, like Tom Halladay, worked their last jobs in February and have not yet been able to receive an unemployment check.
Employment, I went in right off the bat, but they didn't even open it up for self-employed until like the end of April. And it still says on their website that give us 30 days to process it. Well, it's been more than 30.
Duane and Lisa are freelance television production technicians. Lisa does slow motion replays and Duane is a camera operator. They make their living at sports events, college basketball, NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball. They haven't worked for nearly 3 months and are currently on unemployment. They're anxious to start working.
Rumors are baseball is going to happen, in July, and then I'm going to eagerly go after it, work as much as I can. And then after that, it looks like football is going to happen, in some way. I'll continue with that and just go from there. And hopefully within a year, there'll be a vaccine for the virus, hopefully. And then, maybe things will get a little bit back to somewhat normal.
We take everything right now as speculation. So as far as our work for NBA, we're hearing rumors of them potentially starting, but doing them all in Orlando. And right now we're hearing a lot of different rumors about MLB. So we have no answers still.
Attorney Herber, a sole practitioner, took a new job out of state and moved in mid-May. Takanaev, who invested everything she had into her new venture on Kara Community Casting, continues to run her company on a shoestring budget, thanks to a Paycheck Protection Program grant. They have actually began to work again.
Fortunately, we started getting work from clients. With the pivot that we had made towards the digital casting, that helped. So we brought in some work, and then just recently we started getting like casting calls for real shoots. So in combination with the PPP, it was a good cushion.
Hair salon owner Deanna Calvillo has been making do with no unemployment so far, although she did apply under the new state pandemic unemployment assistance program for self-employed workers.
So today's Tuesday, May 26th. This is my first full day back at work. They've allowed us to come back to work with some restrictions. It is a little odd, but I will get used to it. It won't be at the volume that I'm used to, but I am glad to be back at work.
So as Calvillo and Takanaev return to work, the new normal begins to take effect.
We just had a shoot last week, and it was, everything that's being done right now is basically just in compliance with CDC rules about shooting. So they don't have a whole lot of people on set. It's all social distancing. They don't have any food. It's very lean.
As for Halladay and the Rodriguezes, they hope their new normals arrive soon.
What goes through my mind is I hope that at some point things loosen up, that there's, I've been sheltering in place. If there are opportunities where it's a job I could travel to by car, or I wouldn't have to get on an airplane, customer feels comfortable having me come through the door and spend time with people who need training. Also, try and figure out a way to do it remotely otherwise.
So Duane, last time we spoke, you said your last game was March 4th or 5th or thereabouts?
Yeah, somewhere around there, yeah.
And Lisa, I think you said about like a week later maybe. You're out on the West Coast. Anything since, and anything in the books for the near future?
No, nothing. There's nothing that has been offered us.
So my last job was the last week of February, yeah. And then things that I had in March kind of fell off the calendar because people were starting to kind of tighten things up because they didn't want outsiders coming in causing issues. So, and since then, some of the things that popped up that were June are getting pushed out too. So,
how do you feel being back?
A little nervous, a little, I just want to make sure I'm keeping everybody safe and myself. I'm putting myself most at risk.
I think the general is like a bit of exhaustion, just because it's just such an unnatural way to exist, to always be alert and always be just confined into your space.
I think that my emotions have probably run the gamut. I've been a little roller coaster, which has probably been fun for Duane. But
the upside is that I realize that when I'm at home and we have to make meals, and we're more aware of what we're making and what we're eating. So I'm not eating French fries when I'm out on the road. I'm not eating as much as I did on the road, and my clothes are fitting better.
I miss working. I've always been a working guy. I mean, we talk about under normal circumstances, we talk to each other about, hey, we got to remember next year at this time not to take so much work because it's really starting to pile up on us, right?
It's probably looking like the first month at least, I'm going to be doing maybe 50% of my normal volume of clients. So there's no jumping into this. It's slow and steady.
And like Deanna, Tokara Henry reopened her nail salon in Brownsville recently after closing in early March. Her customers, too, have been a bit timid about returning.
we were closed a very long 65 days. It was a very long 65 days. It was very nerve-wracking 65 days. We actually closed earlier, a day or so earlier than when Governor Evers mandated us to close. We immediately needed to figure out how we could best serve the community without providing one-on-one or direct services. So, because we have a pretty strong clientele, we decided to do an Etsy shop online where we sold soap-off kits, we sold moisturizing packs,
We also had some Bijou Nails and Company merchandise that we sold as well. And that was actually opening up a whole nother business. Etsy is definitely, and doing things online as opposed to direct client services was definitely new for us, but I think we managed to pivot well. We all experienced a lot of anxiety. I think our mental health was definitely took a hit because we needed to not only deal with what, you know, the world was dealing with, but we also had to figure out how to make it through. And some of us have been doing that well. Some of the businesses are not still handling it well, but then we are all encouraging each other and just trying to find ways to support each other. Adjusting to this new normal is something that we are all still trying to figure out. I think there is still a fear of being sick. I think we get a lot of support online. We get a lot of, I'm proud of you, things are going great, I'll be back. But I think that there is still a hesitation, rightfully so. So we haven't seen as much traffic as we would like to see, but we are ready and we have everything in position to take on the clientele when they are ready to come back.
We thank you for joining us tonight. We invite you to watch Joanne Williams and the Black Nouveau team 2 weeks from tonight at 7:30 when they bring you another Black Nouveau pandemic special. And you can watch more stories of our pandemic at MilwaukeePBS.org. As more places continue to open, please remember that COVID-19 is still among us. So please take care of yourself. And thank you for supporting Milwaukee PBS. We leave you with a look back at some of your stories as we began to work from home during these unprecedented times.
Hello, I'm Bodan Zachary, Vice President and General Manager of Milwaukee PBS. As a licensee of Milwaukee Area Technical College, we will be working from home until April 12th to limit our social contact and to help slow the spread of the coronavirus.
Hi, everyone. Portia Young here, host of 10thirtysix. And this is day one.
Hi, I am Patricia Gomez, the host and producer of the Latino show Adelante. I'm working from home, and also is my husband Benjamin.
Hello, and how are you doing after a week of total unprecedented upheaval to all our lives? I'm Sandy Max.
Hello, I'm Joanne Williams.
Hello, my name is Alexandria Mason. I'm a producer with Milwaukee PBS.
You're in the people business, so how do you deal with this special time?
Well, it certainly is a challenge, Raul.
What are 3 C's to help you deal with this new normal? The first one is to be courageous.
The Feed the Frontline campaign started on a Saturday night in my house, reading in the news about doctors and nurses and kind of some of the conditions that they were experiencing.
About 6 Black-owned catering companies and restaurants who are all partnering with us. They prepared food for us, and so we're feeding about 2,500 people.
So there are plus sides of it where I don't have to dye my grays out.
There have been hundreds and hundreds of artists who have been dislocated from their revenue streams.
Take care of people. Give them another layer of protection.
Constantly thinking about the people that we had to furlough.
And we're in this, whether we like it or not. We don't really have a choice. So I just have to believe that today was a good day. Today was a safe day. And I have to keep living.
Let's look for the messages. Look for the messages. Come on, let's go.